Okay, great. How's that? How's that? Nice to be with. I'm trying to change my accent so you think I'm a different person. You know, it's quite interesting because I came to Bali about 13 years ago, and I think like pretty much everyone here in the room fell in love with the place. You know, it really touched me somewhere deep inside, and it's something which I kept with me as I went across the globe, you know, and continued traveling, and I went back to England, and it's something I always remembered. And as the global recession hit back in the UK, as you're quite well aware, capitalism came along and has pretty much had its sort of innings now. And I was there in the UK thinking, God, I don't want to be here in the UK. Where do I want to go? And I really looked inside and I thought, you know what? Bali's the place. It awoke, and I remembered a special feeling. And I came out here and I was as high as a kite. I loved it. I loved being back in Bali. But what I didn't realize until about 2 months later is that I was only living the feeling Bali once gave me. You know, not the feeling I was getting today. And in fact, when I woke up out of this dream state, or this dream place that I once imagined or once knew of, I really realized just pretty much what was going on. You know, there's the pollution, there's the rubbish being thrown, there's the leaded fuel, there's the illegal dump sites, there's the de-beautification, whatever that might be, whatever word you want to label it. And of course, as we've all said here, and as you've heard from the speakers today, you know, that there are some serious problems on the island. And I was then just a visitor here. And I thought, well, what can I do? You know, I'm just a guy from England. I'm just a simple guy from England. And you know, I've got no budget. I'd spent it all enjoying myself here in Bali. I had no budget to do anything major which needs to be done here in Bali. And I knew no one. I had no contacts. And I just thought, well, what can one do? And I think, you know, what I want to share with you over the next few minutes is really my journey from that point and to where I've got to today with the people who are supporting the projects that are going on at the moment, this big engagement project that's happened, and to think that, you know what, there is something each of us can do. And it's something that's actually quite straightforward, and it all boils down to just one thing. Whether you're poor, whether you're rich, whether you have connections, whether you don't, it's just that one thing. It's a choice. It's the choice each of us have to do something. And I'm going to share with you just where that choice lies in this journey. And you know what? I've got a whole list here of problems. You know, there's a water crisis pending. As I looked into it, you know, I asked myself, well, how can I really help Bali do something? Well, just look at the problems. So I started going around, and I thought to myself, you know, I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that sort of hypothetical challenge that if Sir Richard Branson perhaps, or if Donald Trump perhaps were taken away, if you stripped them of all their money, stripped them of all their contacts, but left them broke in the middle of New York or London and said, go ahead and do it all over again, that they would be able to do it because they had the knowledge base, right? So I put myself to the challenge. I taught mindful capitalism in the UK, which I spoke about in part at the last TED speech I did. And that's all about having a positive social environmental impact and generating profits through that. And we did that for companies, right? Like large established capitalist companies. The same ones that have probably destroyed the planet at the moment. And yeah, so they called us in to try and repair that. But I took those principles and I said, well, how can we apply those principles at the same part where there's zero money, right? You look around here and you think, well, everyone complains that they've got no money. Well, how can you take these same principles, apply them, and generate and make a difference and actually see something happen? And that's pretty much what we did. Or that's what I did. I started collating every single problem. And this is what I came up with. I came up with a pending water crisis. This is a major thing. A pending food crisis because of land being sold off to foreign investors. That's a major thing. Around different countries where there's been a food crisis, there's been no longer a community, right? The whole place has collapsed. These are serious things. lack of electrical power in some areas, lack of water, traffic congestion. Bad drivers. They're also, they're a bit of a problem. But, and of course, we've got pollution on the major beaches, erosion of shorelines because of illegal pumping of water, decline, and this is more specifically it. I think which really I found a lot of struggle with, was realizing that the Balinese culture, that aspect about this island, Bali and the Balinese, that part had disappeared from the forefront, right? And I don't see that anymore. And that is, I work with another culture up in northern India also, who are sort of at the threat of extinction. And it just reminded me of that, thinking, well, capitalism is going to be the root cause of extinguishing an amazing culture that exists. It's the only unique culture in the globe. And I think that's what I found a lot of struggle with. And I think a lot of people in this room who, I think you can all resonate. Am I right? Is this something which you all share? I get a couple of nods. Maybe half of you share the idea. But it's what I struggle with. It's these problems, and it's this ideal Bali that once used to be here. So after collating a lot of these problems, I thought, well, okay, well, how can we raise funds? How can we challenge these problems by making a business around it? So the first problems that I actually came across were two specific ones: homeless, working girls, and people with a lack of quality education, people leaving education at an early age. And they're normally connected, all three of those. So I thought, well, okay, well, what could we do as a solution? And I thought of, just tapping into my pile of sort of collective knowledge, was Big Issue, perhaps. You're familiar with that? That was made for the homeless people. It's now strong. They've grown into a massive enterprise. I thought, great, we could do that. We could set up a magazine, and these people could go around selling the magazine to tourists, so it'd be a value-added product. And then I thought of, okay, well, a value-added product, what do tourists want? So I went out and I started engaging with the tourists, and I spoke to probably about 300-400 different people, getting their feedback on this concept of a magazine supporting people, and it would train them. It was called the Mindful Entrepreneurs magazine, and it's still available. It's online. That's not a plug, by the way. I'm just saying that this was the beginning. And then we came up with, I say we because I started talking to a lot of people, and when I start speaking to them and I engage them and they come up with ideas, it became more of a mass idea. And then I thought, well, hang on, how mindful is this magazine, a 30-page glossy magazine, to go out to the public? That's not going to help the environment. So what I was able to do was narrow that down to one pamphlet, just a two-sided A5 pamphlet. Took that pamphlet, went to businesses, and for the first time we were able to directly engage businesses to give money directly back towards pressing social environmental issues on a specific campaign that would help tackle Bali's problems, and engage tourists to support those businesses. So you can see that nice loop or link. And the idea there, we approached CSR, we approached marketing, it fit in nicely there, but the idea is that that could completely reflect right through the entire business. So we moved from the glossy magazine, and then I met Johnny, who's one of our sponsors, and is not here tonight. But I met him, and he came up with the idea of, well, there's a plastic bag issue, which we also knew is a problem. And he said, well, why not change this coupon booklet into a coupon bag? So we came out with the coupon bag, which is what we're now producing for all of the participating businesses. And so far, and then we went on from the bag onto, and we've got these other products in line, which are all designed from concept to product to tourist engagement to spend money. And in fact, they'll spend 15% more than they will ordinarily, connecting those tourists to businesses who generate more profits. And then they get more profits to give back towards helping Bali. And that there became the Regenerating Earth, or the Regenerating Bali marketing tourist engagement model. And so far, that's been taken off. And we've been passed on to some very big companies who are looking to come on board. And I would like to say that, it's really just a start. It's just a start that, from one person who has no connections, not really connected with the island other than the experience he had many years ago, that with no money, each of us can actually do something. You know, we can look out there and so many people I've met just say, well, I haven't got the money, I haven't got the budget to do that. You don't need money or a budget to do it. All you need is creativity, innovation, engagement, mutual vision, shared vision, and you can come up with ideas that you'll find support and people will get on board. And that's what I feel is going to be the future of Bali. And I think that's going to be the future of business. And I think that Bali can be a great example for the whole globe to say, look, you know what? It all boils down to just one thing. It's not whether businesses regenerate Bali. It's not whether businesses go away and just drain the resources, which is what's happening today with pretty much every business. Bali's a great example of that. But it's about each of us having the ability to make a choice, the ability to be able to go to one business and say, you know what, I can either go and get a drink from that bar, or I can get a drink from that bar, but that bar will give part of its profits towards regenerating Bali, whereas that bar is illegally tapping water and draining Bali's resources. So the ultimate power isn't the business and its concept. The ultimate power is up to us, each one of us, to go and support these businesses that are tackling pressing social environmental issues. And if we do that en masse, so far we've got a group of 8 people. I think Virginie partially nodded that she was one of them. But we've got a group of people. Brad, I know, is one of has agreed to come on board, and I think he's going to convince Monica. But we're going to go round, and we haven't really thought of the time frame, but every week or 2 weeks we're going to go round and build this group to support businesses who are actively giving back and tackling pressing campaigns. And we will know that it's because of our process can change the entire world, but I know that we can have a good crack at it. That's it. Thank you.